Okay, so for 3-1, lines and angles, we learned about a lot of this in topic 1. We learned about points, lines, planes, and segments, and we learned about angles. So now we're going to put those two things together and talk about lines with angles. And so first off, we have to talk about parallel lines, which I'm sure you guys all know what parallel lines are. You guys might say the lines that never touch, right? And so these are coplanar lines. That means they're on the same plane, referring back to our vocabulary from topic 1, that do not intersect. So we got that all together. And for hand signal, it's just putting your hands up and making parallel lines, okay? So our symbol for parallel is these two lines straight up. So to say that two lines are parallel, I can say line L is parallel to line M because of these lines. Now, the way it's shown on a picture, I'm skipping around a little bit, but is these extra arrows right here. So that tells me that these two lines are parallel. Okay, we cannot assume that lines are parallel unless we either have the arrows or it tells us that they're parallel, is parallel to. We could also write it like this: line AB is parallel to line CD. And the extra arrows help to tell us that. So that is what parallel lines are, and that's what makes up a lot of chapter 3, especially the first 3 sections, is we work with parallel lines and use a lot of things with them. Skew lines are non-coplanar, and they're not parallel, and they do not intersect, okay? So this is kind of trippy because you're like, wait, if they don't intersect, they're parallel. But they could also not be on the same plane. What I mean by that, and this is kind of hard to draw, so I'm going to draw a box. Sorry for the bell in the background. Filming during my conference period. So if I have a box, technically, this line, if I continue it on forever, and this line never intersect, correct? But would we say that they're parallel? No, because they're not on the same plane. This one's going off in this direction, and this one's going off in this direction. But they don't actually intersect right here. There's gap right here. It's not like they're just touching each other and intersect. There's a gap. So we call those skew lines, okay? So they are skew. Next up, we have a transversal. So a transversal is a line that cuts across two or more other lines. So on here, we have two lines. They don't have to be parallel yet. They'll be parallel in chapter 3-2 and 3-3. Sorry about the bell. But we have this right here is our transversal because it cuts through two or more lines. So this could also look like this. I could have one line. I could have another line. Okay, I have arrows. Sorry, it's a little crooked. And then it could be sideways. So this is the transversal line because it cuts through two other lines, okay? That's our transversal. So that's something to keep in mind right there. So now with transversals, or two lines cut by a transversal, there are types of angle pairs, okay? So the way that you think of this is the space in between the two lines, so this space right here, that's called the interior, okay? So that's the interior. And then this space, that is called the exterior, okay? So we have interior and exterior, and it could be sideways too, so we keep that in mind. So the way that this naming of these angles work is by saying alternate interior angles. They're on different sides of the transversal, that's what alternate means, and they're on the interior of the two lines. So we can see on here, angle 3 and angle 5 on different sides of the transversal, so that makes them alternate, and they're on the interior, so they're alternate interior. Now you may be like, why not 3 and 4? Here's the difference there. You kind of want to think of these, like put a circle around the 1 through 4 angles and put a circle around the 5 through 6 angles. For angle pairs, you're going to want one from each section, okay? We're not just talking about two angles in here. We're talking about one from this area and one from this area, okay? So we have 3 and 5 for alternate interior, and 4 and 6. Each one of those are in a different angle grouping. They're on different sides of the transversal, and they're on the interior of the two lines, alternate interior angles. Next up, we have same side interior angles. So this is the same thing. We go interior, and we want to be on the same side of the transversal. So we see 3 and 6 are same side interior angles here, and 4 and 5 are same side interior angle here. Okay, those are the only two pairs. We see we have one from this group, 3, and one from this group, 6. So that's how that works. Next up, we have alternate exterior angles. So alternate means they're going to be on different sides of the transversal. Exterior means they're going to be on these outside parts. Okay, and then remember, we want one from this group and one from this group. So if I pick one, I have to go on the other side in this group on the exterior to pick 7. Okay, so that's 1 and 7 are alternate exterior angles. So we can see that on here. Next up, we have angle 2 and 8. So we have this angle up here. So we go on the other side in the other group on the exterior, and we have angle 8. So those are alternate exterior, and we can see how the name goes with it. Now for corresponding angles, I'm going to draw another picture right here. Okay, we're going to make all these arrows. Okay, so remember how I told you guys we want one angle from each group. So these are our two groups, and we want one angle from each group. Well, with corresponding angles, the way you can think about corresponding is it's in the same spot, but in a different group. Okay, so if I'm picking the spot in the top left corner of this group, the corresponding angle is going to be in the top left corner of this group. So that's how we get 1 and 5. Those are both in the top left of their groupings. The same thing, if I pick the top right, it goes with the top right. Okay, that's corresponding. They go together. Okay, that's an important thing to think about. Next up, we have 3 and 7. Okay, so if I'm going to put a happy face. Okay, in the bottom right, I'm going to have the same thing down here. Those are corresponding angles. Okay, and the last one, I'm going to use a H for Miss Humler. Okay, and it goes with, so that's bottom left, bottom left. Those are the corresponding angles. Okay, that one was 4 and 8. So those are how angle pairs work, and that's the introduction to lines and angles for chapter 3. We use a lot of these for the rest of geometry, so make sure you have a basic understanding of all of these different angle pairs. That way you are prepared for our next section. Remember, in geometry, everything builds on itself. So you got to make sure to learn this material so that way you can learn the next material. Remember, if you learn this material, the next section gets easier. Thank you very much, and make sure you complete your assignment.